I was Andy Usher, boy Rico from StreetScores. Sorry it's so late. I'm recording this right now. It's 3:48 a.m. But no matter what, we gotta break down everything that went down in the day 5, the Washington Commanders 2025 training camp practice. It was the first day with pads on. There was some hits. It's not supposed to be full contact, but some people were still hitting. We got to talk about JCM showing elite potential. We got to talk about how Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, who's also showing that elite potential, has somewhat of a rivalry starting to brew up with safety Tyler Owens. We're going to dive into how this was probably Jayden Daniels' best day of training camp so far, which is amazing because he's had some great days already. He's had some ridiculous throws. This is probably his best day of start to finish in a training camp practice so far. We got to talk about how the defensive line dominated today. We got to talk about how Noah Benogany stepped up big time. We have so many things to talk about. Josh Connolly's improving. We're going to dive into all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Like I said, I'm updating y'all on every single training camp practice. Even if I'm late and I gotta do it the day later or the way later at night like I'm doing right now, we're still gonna break down everything. Just in case if there of those y'all out there that only watch my YouTube channel, I'm not letting late be an excuse. So we are going to talk about every single practice that we have any access to, whether the fans can go or not. Reporters, I'm gonna show y'all the clips like I do in these, like in this breakdown. Every time we're gonna break down every single position group of the team, even including special teams, every time. So stay tuned. Without further ado, let's go and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so before we start with practice, first of all, you have Commanders GM Adam Peters right here, just kind of looking around at practice and stuff like that. Bleeding Burgundy and Gold made the joke that maybe he's fresh off of the phone with Adam Schefter, because we had Adam Schefter talking in the morning about the whole Terry McLaurin situation. And again, there's those theories out there that maybe Adam Peters was the one that gave that to Adam Schefter to put that out there to make Terry look a little crazy and to try to win the fans back in his favor. But you know, that's a whole other thing that I already discussed in my whole Terry McLaurin situation breakdown that I put out yesterday when everything was going down. And then also I want to point out the fact that today was the first padded practice of 2025. Still not full contact and taking people all the way to the ground, but the intensity definitely increased today compared to any other day so far this entire offseason, this entire year. And it was also another fan allowed day, which was really cool. So shouts out to Mitch Tisler for putting this clip out there of Terry McLaurin hanging around with his agent while Jayden Daniels was in the back signing things for fans. It was another fan-led day. And again, I want to emphasize with this additional clip uploaded by Scott Abraham that Terry McLaurin was at practice today with his agent, Buddy Baker. And I want to re-emphasize again, I did a full breakdown of everything that's going on with Terry McLaurin, how DK Metcalf affects his contract, how the new Cortland Sutton extension probably sets the market for Terry. I went to dive into all of that. So go check that out. That was a whole separate video. I want to dive into that in this. But I do want to point out the fact that Terry McLaurin is Buddy Baker's best client by far, not even close, the highest paid by far. So he's treating Terry McLaurin like the golden child right now, and there's a reason that he has Terry McLaurin staying 10 toes down on his contract situation right now. But shouts out to Terry. At least he came to do autographs for fans and, you know, say hi to everybody, hang out with his teammates, with the trainers and everything like that. But he's still not practicing right now. Now moving on, speaking of those fans, Deebo Samuel said that he felt like he was about to play the game with the amount of fans that were at camp. So I guess he's not necessarily used to fans being this passionate about training camp practices. Hey, man, welcome to the Burgundy and Gold, man. We don't play about odds, man, especially now that we're finally really good. We don't play, man. Here's Deebo Samuel himself.
How does it feel just to be back out here and being in front of fans and just to get things going?
Like yesterday, I was pulling up. And I seen how many fans was out there. I was like, bro, I thought I was about to get ready to play a game. But the fans out here is crazy. It's good to be out here in front of fans. You know, I know it's good for them to come and watch practice and see the things that we do day in and day out. And, you know what I'm saying, just come out here and give them what they're looking for.
And then injury update wise, I'm just going to have this clip of Samuel Cosme walking around because any chance that I get, Samuel Cosme showing signs of life, we're going to do it. You know, I rock with Samuel Cosme so heavy, so I'm just happy to see it. And then again, today the pads were finally on. So that was an exciting thing to look at and experience, man. It was definitely a different level of intensity going into this practice. And it was like 11 on 11s with pads. Now also, there were a few veteran rest days. You had Laramie Tunsil, Zach Ertz, Marshawn Lattimore, and Von Miller not participated in practice day 5 of training camp. And again, I'm recording this at 3:54 a.m. right now. So we're talking about Monday, July 28th, the first padded practice. And then coaching update wise, Dan Quinn said, and he even announced the fact that it was the first day of pads, and Scott Abraham asked him on why this day always stands out, the first day of pads. And Dan Quinn said, quote, "It's the essence of our game. Let's teach it right. We want our identity to be tough as hell. There's a lot of fun that goes into this day," unquote. And there's like a whole 1 minute answer to that. If you want to go see the rest of that, like actually hear Dan Quinn say it himself, it's on Scott Abraham's Twitter. And then now moving on to the quarterback position. Again, like I told y'all before the intro, Jayden Daniels probably had his best day of the entire training camp so far. And that says a lot, man. That says a lot. JP Finley tweeted at a certain point, Jayden was absolutely dialed in today. Might be the best he's looked all camp. And that is like really interesting to me, because he was already showing signs of this is why he's considered a top 5 quarterback by most people around the NFL, in NFL circles. We're talking about executives with coaches. We're talking about national media. We're talking about a lot of people that don't have any necessarily attachment or fandom towards the Commanders, all agreeing that Jayden Daniels is already a top 5 quarterback. And through the first 4 practices of training camp, he showed you why. Somehow, day 5, he took it up another level. That's scary. We're talking about a guy that just had the best rookie season in NFL history, regardless of position, player, or anything. And then now he's better going into year 2. And just a few notable moments from the practice as to why Jayden Daniels was so on point. Well, first of all, he had a really good pop pass to Bates for a big gain off of play action, according to Linnell Willingham. And then JP Finley said that Jayden Daniels had a laser to Sinnott on the interior, and it was a great throw and a great catch. And of course, we're going to talk about Ben Sinnott a little bit later, because that's huge news right there, man. We need Ben Sinnott to ball out this year and to finally develop into the player that we hoped he'd be when we took him in the 2nd round. And then you also have this clip right here of Jayden Daniels throwing a pretty ball to Luke McCaffrey, like during the drills portion of practice right here. Hey man, we have to talk about Luke McCaffrey as well. We heard great things about him this practice. And then you have this clip of Jayden Daniels just throwing the ball to Deebo Samuel again through drills, just kind of working on some things, man. They're trying to get that chemistry to continue to grow. They already seem to have great chemistry, but he throws him the ball a lot, not only in drills, but also in team drills when they're like in 11 on 11s and things like that. And then Zach Selby said that the Commanders started things off with goal drills. When they first got the team 11 on 11 drills, they started in goal line situations, and Daniels hit Deebo for a really nice pass in the back corner of the end zone. And I believe this is the play that everybody was talking about with the throw to Deebo Samuel. Ben Standig even said that it was a beautiful Daniels to Deebo connection in the end zone in the 11s as the receiver ran to the near sideline. Excellent concentration on the catch and feet from Deebo Samuel as well, but also a great throw from Jayden Daniels. And then Bleeding Burgundy and Gold tweeted after the end of practice, "That'll do it for practice in Ashburn. The defensive line dominated the day, but I thought Jayden looked sharp, especially throwing to the middle of the field with pressure in his face." And that's all you want to hear. Jayden Daniels looked really good, even despite the defensive line dominating on the day. Jayden Daniels was still sharp in spite of that, and especially sharp when throwing over the middle of the field with pressure in his face. That was like the last thing that Jayden Daniels needed to evolve into and to add to his repertoire of skill sets for him to literally have a chance to be the best quarterback in the NFL and win an MVP this season, just going into his 2nd year of his NFL career. Those were like one of the last main things where if he can add that, if he can consistently throw over the middle, especially with pressure in his face, it's over with for the league. So the fact that he's already doing that, and we're just in day 5 of training camp, going into his 2nd season ever, incredible stuff, man. And DC Sports Dre even said the pads were on today and Jayden put on a show. things you love to see. Is Zone Runner 331 said, I might shed a tear when Jayden Daniels wins the MVP. The fact that the league thinks a quarterback from Washington is top 5 is something that we got to get used to. And I agree, man. I really agree. I wish I would have had more clips to show you of what Jayden Daniels was doing in practice, but that's all we got from everybody that went today. I guess, it's crazy. Maybe I jinxed it. You know, the previous training camp breakdown video I did, I talked about how, like, the guys that we expect to do great things, we typically don't see clips of those guys uploaded by the fans or reporters that go to the practice because it's kind of business as usual. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of something you expect. Like when Bobby Wagner's making a great play, you know, you just kind of expect that, and people don't really be like, wow, because it's just kind of part of the routine that happens in every day of practice, and which also translates into games and things like that. But I kept saying, though, Jayden Daniels may be the one guy that, even though you expect him to be great, I guess because of the nature of the position, the fact that he's a quarterback, he's controlling everything, people still upload clips and always hype it up and things like that. But now Jayden Daniels is even starting to get to the territory where apparently he had the best day of the entire offseason, and we only have like one actual team drill clip to show of it. Everything else, every other clip that I just showed you was just from random individual drills of no defense, just Jayden throwing the ball to Deebo Samuel. So I guess we're getting to the territory where Jayden Daniels' excellence is just expected at this point. And I guess that's a great thing, but I wish we would get more clips, man. I would love I'm showing y'all every clip that I've seen, that I have access to, so I wish there was more I could give you, but this is all I got. Now moving on to the running backs. And man, look at Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, man. Y'all can't tell me this guy isn't ready to take over, man. Look at the jump cutting ability. Look at the way he gets through the gap, even though it's not a big opening and everything like that. And I love the fact that he finished this play, even though technically he would have been tackled a long time before he kept running as far as he did. Still, man, I just love the effort. I love the energy. And most importantly, I love the ceiling and the athleticism that he brings to this running back room that nobody else has. George Carmi even said JCM has been showing some wiggle all off season. Those jump cuts aren't just used in drills. The Commanders may have found a late round gem. And then Ben Standig even said that Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt took advantage of pad day, used his vision to find a lane and immediately cut vertical and zoomed up the field. That's the play that you just saw. Tyler Owens was waiting. It was a jarring collision, more than probably Dan Quinn and the coaching staff wanted out of a day that, even though it's the first day of pads, they don't want them to necessarily like do super hits. But JCM apparently bounced off because, again, no tackling allowed. It maintained his balance and forward momentum, again, like you saw in the clip. And then JP Finley also pointed out that at some point in 11s, Jalen Lane had a nice catch in the 11s, but then the immediate next play after that, you had a nice run from JCM, that boy Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill. And I'm telling you right now, this is your future RB1. Point blank, period. The only question is whether it'll be sooner rather than later. It's more of a when than an if. But I think he has a great chance to become RB1 at some point this season. And we will need the explosion, quickness, agility, acceleration, and change of direction skills that he brings to the table, of which no other running back on this entire team right now also brings. It's just him. He's the only guy that can do a lot of the things physically that he does. Of course, Austin Eckler is more nuanced than him as a pass protector, as a receiving back. Brian Robinson's maybe a little bit more nuanced, you know, especially at this point before JCM breaks out, as far as like a pure in between the tackles running back with vision and things like that. But even then, from the little things I'm seeing from JCM right now, I don't know, maybe he's far beyond his years as far as like a lot of the nuanced stuff. I can't wait, man. And then you also have this clip right here uploaded by Scott Abraham. And he said, I've never seen a 7th round draft pick get as much love as Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. The Commanders rookie running back is turning some heads at training camp. I mean, you see him signing things for fans as if he's already like a celebrity right now. Like, technically, depth chart wise, he's probably the last running back on the team, but he just keeps making plays. And like I told y'all before we even drafted him, this guy has the potential to be a great running back at the next level. We luckily, due to crazy circumstances, were able to give him in the 7th round. But like I said, if he would have went back to college, well, if he were eligible to go back to college for one more year and play one more season of college, he was a 1st, 2nd round talent easily. So to get him in the 7th round was a huge steal. Similar to Josh Connolly, where like, now he had eligibility. He could have gone back to Oregon for one more year. And it's not even just me saying this. You had several of the top draft guys say that, like, you know, Josh Connolly went 29th overall because he's still so young and so raw in certain aspects. But if he would have went back to college and played one more year, he's probably a top 5 pick in the draft. Similar to that, we are lucky that we took JCM in weird circumstances, because in another universe where he is eligible and his former college team doesn't snitch on his eligibility, he's able to play the entire season, he probably doesn't make it out of the third round at least. I'm telling you, third round at the latest. And then Linnell Willingham made sure to get an interview with JCM after practice. And don't forget that Scott Abraham interviewed him 2 practices ago as well. And I feel like it's very noteworthy to point out that even after the highlight field data Jalen Lane had of yesterday's practice, well, technically July 27th, JCM still gets talked about and interviewed even more than him. Now that I think about it, he's the most interviewed player in this entire 2025 draft class, and he's the 7th rounder. Real star potential here, and everybody seems to feel it. And then you also had Grant Paulson. He took the time to grab a lot of the media members during practice and ask them who has stood out the most so far in training camp. And we're not even just talking about out of the rookies. We're talking about out of every single player possible. And crazy enough, most of them picked Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. As you can see in this clip right here, again, this is Grant Paulson. This is a 2-minute and 31-second clip. So if you want to skip ahead 2 minutes and 31 seconds, go ahead.
That I think I'm most intrigued to see throughout the preseason is running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Just because, it's really hard to tell out here without pads on what he can do, but you see the decisive cuts. On film, you saw the violent nature of his runs. Watching him run some pass routes looks pretty good. So I think he's someone that I'm really intrigued by just because there's mystery there. He didn't play last year at Arizona except for 1 game. What can he do? He's the guy that I want to see.
All right, camp standout guy to watch. I'm going to stay on the same train, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He just had a play a few minutes ago. They're in pads. He runs horizontal, sees a hole, blasts up the hole, sees there's Tyler Owens, slams into him, boom, keeps his balance, keeps going. I think he's got the wiggle that they need in that backfield. Whether he can play, we'll see.
All right, my camp standout so far, I got to give it to the second-year corner from Michigan, Mikey Sanderstill. He's been all over the place, hard hitter, interceptions, a couple of days in a row, spread out over a day off, had a tremendous interception off of Jayden Daniels on a leaping play to start practice on Sunday. He's out here again, mixing and matching, doing his thing. So Mikey Sanderstill, as far as a player going into the preseason, or into the preseason action, I'm going to say Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill.
Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt will be the starting running back in this team by December. Brian Robinson gets the chance to start in the beginning, but this new kid runs hard. I like a lot of what I see, and I think that's a Grant Paulson bet for me in the bank that Ja'Cory's going to have a good career here.
I'm going to go with the 7th rounder, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I just love the way he cuts, how he violently hits the hole. I think he's going to be a complete running back. He's showing off some of his receiving skills. I'm very encouraged. I know it's going to be a deep running back room, but I think he's going to find a way to make this 53-man roster. So keep your eye on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. So far, so good from what I see from the 7th rounder.
Jalen Lane, my camp standout so far. I think he's ready to play week 1 in the NFL. That's all you can hope for. You got Lattimore questions. What's he going to be? You've got questions about Sanderstill. Where do you want to play him, inside or outside? Jalen Lane being a consistent NFL performer on the outside, that's all you need right there. It's going to help you out.
And then shouts out to Bleeding Burgundy and Gold. He quote tweeted this clip and said, JCM has had a really good day, in my opinion, for the day 5 of training camp that we're breaking down now. Thought he got more reps with the 1s and 2s than he even did in day 4, the first day of practice, where the fans could pull up. He feels like day 5, that boy Ja'Cory was out there with the starters at times, and even the immediate backups, not the backups of the backups. He was out there with Jayden Daniels and Marcus Mariota more often than he used to be. So now he's starting to breach that starting area of, okay, getting them reps with the top guys versus the top defense, and he's still making plays. Watch out, man. And then also, I love this little mini rivalry that's starting to brew between JCM and my dog, Tyler Owens, man. One of my favorite young players brought in last year versus one of my favorite players brought in this year. Even going back to the play I just showed y'all a few minutes ago. Ben Standig even addressed the situation. He said Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt takes advantage of the pad day, uses vision to find the lane, and immediately cut vertical like we talked about earlier. And he talked about how Tyler Owens was waiting, and it was a really hard collision. But he chose to talk about how JCM maintained his balance and forward momentum momentum and was able to go through it. But Bleeding Burgundy and Gold said something slightly different. Still breaking down the same exact play. Again, the clip that I just showed you. He said pads on, team not going to the ground, but if they did, Tyler Owens would have killed JCM. Somebody even asked Bleeding Burgundy and Gold, was it a good play for Tyler or a bad play for Bill? And then he replied, Tyler definitely got him on that one. Those two were going at it though. There was a rep on the goal line where I would say Bill delivered the blow. So right now we're starting to get a rivalry going between 7th round pick, 2025 7th round pick, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, who's becoming one of the biggest stars on the team already, somehow as a 7th round pick. And then my favorite undrafted free agent brought to the Commanders in so many years, and Tyler Owens. They're going back and forth, and I love that, man. I love the competition. Iron sharpens iron. Now moving on to the wide receiver position. And first of all, of course, Terry was at practice again today. Well, yesterday, as in July 28th, Monday. But I gave it all, put it all on the line with the Terry McLaurin video that I did, that separate video. So go check that out because it is a pretty crazy update if you haven't seen it yet. I mean, y'all won't believe how much Terry McLaurin is reportedly asking for. Again, I discussed all of that in the video. So I really just want to move on to the receivers that actually practice today. Don't like spending a bunch of time on Terry McLaurin in these training camp breakdowns because we're here to break down training camp, and he's not doing anything in training camp besides just walking around and signing things for fans. And shouts out to Red Zone in the Lab on Twitter. He pointed out the fact that the wide receivers were working on release drills specifically. We've talked about this so far in several training camp video breakdowns, that the receiver room has had a knack for working on very specific things. They're not just out there running full plays and things like that. They're specifically working on catching the ball away from their frame, catching the ball back shoulders without having to look back. Again, I urge y'all to please find somebody that can throw you a football, turn your back towards them, and get them to throw you the ball and see how many of them you catch yourself. Like, the receivers are specifically working on that skill set. That's very difficult, man. That's what separated Deshaun Jackson from other really fast guys in the NFL. And I love the fact that we're specifically working on things like that. And then even in the day 5 of training camp practice that we're breaking down right now, again, it's 4 a.m., but this happened yesterday, technically July 28th, second day of fans being at practice, first pad at practice. Wide receivers are working on release drills specifically, like specifically getting off of the line of scrimmage against press coverage and things like that. I love that. They're trying to make all of our receivers have at least a certain foundation of well-roundedness to where no matter the situation, they can get open underneath, up top. They have a good release against if they get pressed manned. They have good zone awareness and finding the soft pockets there. They want to make sure every receiver has at least a certain level of skill set and bag and foundation to work with. And then speaking of, Michael Gallup right here. John Com uploaded this clip of Michael Gallup getting some work in catching errant passes. So they're just throwing him ridiculous throws, and basically he's working on being able to catch passes that are not the best. You know, maybe I guess it's a situation where somebody tips the ball, because I mean, that's always a great drill to work on all of the time, because why not? But you won't need those skills when you have Jayden Daniels, laser accurate quarterback, throwing you the ball, man. But maybe he's working on the skill set that he can make catches from the backup quarterback. You know what I'm saying? I mean, enough catches to be able to show the Commanders that he needs to be that 6th and final wide receiver to get that last spot for the team, so that he can finally catch passes from laser focused Jayden Daniels himself. But of course, I'm joking, because it can never hurt to work on something like this as a wide receiver, but he's for sure going to need to tap into this bag less than most other teams' receivers. But it's nice to have it just in case, because again, maybe somebody tips the ball and then he has to find a way to adjust to it midair. But I promise you, Jayden Daniels is going to throw the ball as on target as possible, more times than he doesn't. And then also, now that I think about it, this has to be the easiest job on an NFL team, man. Like, out of the entire team, there can't be any job easier, man. You're telling me all I got to do is throw bad passes at receivers? I do that by accident. I have to admit, I would be a terrible quarterback. I could not throw. I don't know why my passes are so inaccurate. I don't have a lot of arm strength. It hurts to throw the ball really far, and I've always been like that. I have really good hands for an average human that is not in the NFL. Like, I have really good hands, I can admit, as far as being a receiver, but quarterback? Hey, man, I should have signed up for this job. I could have just been me and trying my hardest to throw it accurate, and Michael Gallup still would have got a good workout out of it. Then moving on, a lot of receivers made some good plays today. Jalen Lane, like we spoke on earlier, had a really nice catch on 11s. He's starting to stack days. That's really important. When you're starting to put together consecutive days of making impressive catches and plays, I mean, really, any position group, especially as like a rookie, when you're just starting to stack every practice, you can expect this guy to make some type of good play, again, regardless regardless of position group, that's really big for young guys like Jalen Lane, and I love the fact that he's doing that. And then you also have this play right here. Already showed this to y'all of Jayden Daniels throwing the ball to Deebo Samuel, but of course people wanted to talk about this because this is it was a really good throw by Jayden Daniels as well, but it was also a really good catch from Deebo Samuel. George Carmi even said, I feel like Jayden is going to feed Deebo a lot this season, and he didn't include this. I'm adding this to it, but even with Terry McLaurin back, signed on the team, fully healthy, and playing in games, I agree. I think Deebo Samuel will still get thrown the ball to a lot this year. And George Carmi also said he speaks about him in high regard. Jayden loves Deebo Samuel every time he talks about him. And we're also seeing a lot of touchdowns in training camp. So I think that's a real connection that's growing right there. And then you also have this clip uploaded by Bowie TV Sports with Seawall Sports and all of them. And this is Daniels to Deebo just working on some drills right here. So just keep working on that connection, man. I'm liking the route running that I'm seeing from Deebo Samuel as well. He seems very serious about becoming a more nuanced and refined receiver, technically refined receiver. So I'm excited to see that. And then also next up, NBC4 Sports uploaded this clip of top play KJ. KJ Osborne had a one-handed grab on a pass from Jayden Daniels in the morning of the practice before we got in the team drills and everything like that. And you just love to see it, man, because I don't even think he necessarily had to catch it like that with the one hand. He just chose to do that. So he's just kind of showing off, I'm thinking. Shouts out to KJ, man. Stand out however you got to stand out, man, because it is strong competition for this 6th and final wide receiver spot right now. You already have your locks 5. You're locked in with Terry, Deebo, Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey, and Noah Brown. After that, it's up in the air. You have Ja'Cory Brooks that even though he's been dropping some passes, he was the touchdown machine for a minute. Chris Moore, the seasoned veteran that's been catching touchdowns from Jayden Daniels as well. You have Michael Gallup, who's one of the very few guys on this entire roster. It's just Terry, Deebo, Michael Gallup as far as receivers that have had a 1,000-yard receiving season at some point in their careers. You have so many. You got KJ Osborne, who just had that one-handed catch at once upon a time. Just a couple of years ago, he's one of the best wide receiver twos in the NFL, and I was like praying we somehow found a way to get him. Now I'm not even sure if he's going to make the 53-man roster. Like, we have a really serious competition going on for that 6th and final wide receiver spot. Like, who would have known? You know, just like a few years ago, I was wondering, did we even have 3 or 4 wide receivers we could throw out there with a straight face? Now we're to the point where we're like 8 deep, and we got to figure out and narrow it down to like 6. And then also, apparently, KJ Osborne had a really strong catch at some point during the goal line for a touchdown. Noah Igbenogany had tight coverage. We're going to talk about him later because apparently he had a ridiculously great day today. But Linnell Willingham said that KJ Osborne still found a way to come down with the ball, even with great coverage. And then also, Red Zone in the Lab pointed out the fact that Tay Martin had another impressive catch. So that's another guy that even though he got signed here just simply because Terry McLaurin is skipping out on camp and he went from holding out to holding in, he's been making some noticeable plays, taking advantage of the very limited time that he probably has on this team. But shouts out to him, man, the DC defender zone. And then also Mark Tyler tweeted that y'all are sleeping on Luke McCaffrey. I've heard from multiple people that he's off to a great camp so far. And it is amazing that we haven't heard as much from him as we probably should, because apparently he is having a great camp. I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about it. I'm with Mark Tyler there, because DC Sports News 365 even tweeted going to the practice, Luke McCaffrey had some amazing routes and just looks so fast and thorough on all of his catches in practice today, as in, again, Monday, July 28th, day 5 of training camp. I mean, shouts out to Luke McCaffrey. I love to hear that. Absolutely love to hear that. And then also, I don't remember if this was before or after practice. That doesn't matter. But Deebo Samuel spoke to the media, and I love his quote. He said, quote, "Yeah, I still got a lot in the tank. Like I just said, I just go out there and get better every day. Whatever position they put me in to go out there and make plays, I'm going to do that to the best of my ability." So it seems like he's fully bought in. Not only is he very motivated, but the reason I really like this quote, because it sounds like he's fully bought in. He's like, whatever Cliff needs me to do, I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. I'm not here to be any type of diva and to try to run the show. I'm just here to be a part of a potential Super Bowl contender and contribute in any way positive that I can. Now, moving on to the tight ends. Jayden Daniels, we spoke on earlier with JP Finley saying that he threw a laser to Ben Sinnott on the interior. It was a great throw and a great catch. And then also Red Zone in the Lab tweeted with all caps, Ben Sinnott got hands. Hey, woo-wee, that's some of the best news you can hear, man. That's great news because Ben Sinnott is one of the biggest X factors on the entire team, in my opinion, because we already know what guys like Jayden Daniels, Bobby Wagner, and Laramie Tunsil are going to do for this team. Like, there's a certain floor that they bring where it's kind of like there's not much variation there. But there's certain guys where we are not sure if they're going to be great or replaceable, or maybe somewhere in the middle. Ben Sinnott has the potential to change our entire offense and the trajectory of this team as our best and highest ceiling dual threat tight end if he reaches the potential that he has lying within him. That could completely change Cliff's entire playbook and somehow take this already elite offense to an even higher level. And remember, he's the best yards after catch tight end we already have on the team right now today. I love Ertz, and Ertz is easily by far better at getting open and has the better hands. But after the ball is in either of those tight ends' hands, including John Bates, Sinnott is our best tight end at gaining extra yards after that point. So I love hearing Ben Sinnott news, and if he can gain some of that Zach Ertz experience, Zach Ertz taking him under his wing, that's going to be huge as far as him finding a way to get open and catching the ball. But already today, once he has the ball in his hands, you saw it in the preseason last year, he's impossible to tackle by like the first 2-3 guys. It takes really like the fourth guy to get him down. It's actually really incredible to see. But I just love the system we have going on now. We got Von Miller here to teach all of the younger edge rushers like Javonte Jean-Baptiste, take him under his wing. You have all of these strong veterans Javon Kinlaw is still learning himself, but you got Deron Payne and Javon Kinlaw. Even brought in Eddie Goldman to help develop and mentor Johnny Newton, even to go back to edge rushers. Dietrich Wise is as seasoned as it get as well. He may not necessarily have ever gotten to the level of a future first ballot Hall of Famer like Von Miller, but Dietrich Wise is also very important for, developing and helping mentor Dorrance Armstrong and all of the young guys like Javonte Jean-Baptiste. We have Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu. Well, Bobby Wagner's helping Frankie Louvu mentor him, but Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu are also helping out Jordan McGee and all of these other young linebackers. Then you have Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel here to help mentor Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, and all of these other young receivers all throughout the roster. It's just such a great... Marcus Mariota was a huge help to Jayden Daniels last year. Laramie Tunsil is going to be huge for Josh Connolly's development. I just absolutely love how we're going about this, man. And just all of the... even just Andrew Wiley, Nick Allegretti, and Tyler Biotish helping mentor Brandon Coleman. Now that he's making that transition from tackle to guard, this is his first year being a guard, at least at the NFL level. So he's essentially a rookie when it comes to playing the guard position at the NFL level. So, I just love how we just basically have like a mentorship program and summit going on right now throughout the entire team. But we don't just have pure on the field coaches. I love Thomas Davis more than anybody else that you're probably going to meet in this entire fan base. I am a Georgia dog, so I was really happy to have him, but he was pretty much just an on the field coach. He doesn't contribute much. No, we have guys that are going to go out there and play very well while at the same time mentoring and helping develop the younger guys around them in their position group. So it's like the best of both worlds. But even just going back to Ben Sinnott, don't forget, he can block very well too. He's not just a receiving tight end. I'm hearing that Ben Sinnott even had some good blocking moments in practice today. And then speaking of blocking, John Bates, man, arguably the best blocking tight end in the NFL. So when Red Zone in the Lab tweeted that John Bates had a big gain on a catch from Jayden Daniels, it looks like we're starting to really develop some dual threat tight ends. And again, like I've said, dual threat tight ends are probably the most important pieces to having a very efficient and explosive offense in the NFL, because it avoids telegraphing to the defense what you're doing. If your tight end is usually only a blocking tight end, when they're on the field, they know you're running the ball. When you're usually a receiving tight end type of guy, they know you're passing the ball when that guy's on the field. When you have dual threat tight ends, defenses have no idea what's going on. They're not ready for anything. They have to kind of stay on the back of their heels and be ready for any and everything, which means they're prepared for absolutely nothing. So I love that, man. Let's keep developing that skill set right there from all of our tight ends. Shouts out to Zach Ertz for the mentorship program there. And then also offensive line wise, of course, with Laramie Tunsil taking a vet rest day, Andrew Wiley again moves to starting left tackle from the starting right tackle spot, and then Josh Connolly moves from second string right tackle to your starting right tackle. And like I already brought up, man, Josh Connolly, the fact that when Laramie Tunsil isn't there, instead of moving Josh Connolly to left tackle, you can tell they're trying to specifically develop him to only play right tackle. We're like, okay, when Laramie Tunsil's gone, we prefer to move Andrew Wiley around and bounce him around. We want Josh Connolly, you are right tackle, and that's it. And it seems like they're trying to develop him into that so that he can start sooner rather than later and basically overcome and take the place of Andrew Wiley for that starting right tackle spot. And speaking of Josh Connolly, here's some clips of him right here uploaded by Scott Abraham. And Mitch Tisler pointed out the fact that Dietrich Wise was giving Josh Connolly some really good work at right tackle throughout the practice today. Dietrich Wise was on one. He had a really good day at practice. And then Connolly got a little too over-aggressive with Dorrance Armstrong taking him inside and pancake him at one point in time. Again, this is not supposed to be that type of practice, but shouts out to Josh Connolly for responding. Bleeding Burgundy and Gold replied, he said, yeah, Wise and Connolly were battling today. And I think Wise won most of the reps in the run game, but Josh Connolly basically stonewalled him on pass plays. Again, this is a season of a veteran edge rusher you can get. He was just starting for the Patriots last year. Josh Connolly is just coming out of college just a couple of months ago, and he's stonewalling these type of guys in pass protection. We already talked about how a couple of practices ago he had some really good reps against Von Miller in pass protection. And I mean, granted, he's not the best run blocker, and that's why some people felt like he should probably wait another year to gain more strength and more experience as far as run blocking. So, of course, he's going to win. He's going to lose some of those reps right now, but the fact that he's even competing in the run game is huge, and the fact that he's already potentially an elite pass blocker has me really excited about Josh Connolly immediately week one going out there and playing like a really good right tackle with some real Pro Bowl potential. Also, Bleeding Burgundy and Gold said Josh Connolly was having a much better day today than yesterday. Again, he had a much better July 28th, day 5 of practice, than he had of day 4 of practice on July 27th. He just picked up a blitz and nickel really well, so he's starting to become a more aware player as well. Then Linnell Willingham also talked about Josh Connolly. I mean, it's the same play. He apparently picked up a really nice blitz from Wagner, and JD5 was able to deliver that big pass to Ben Sinnott because of Josh Connolly's ability to pick up the Bobby Wagner blitz. And then also at some point, Red Zone in the Lab said that Josh Connolly pancaked number 52. Mind you, we've been hearing nothing but great things about Javon Kinlaw this entire offseason so far. He's been making plays. People talk about how he makes Daron Payne look like a normal human being just from how physically imposing he is. So that is a great feat right there. Josh Connolly had a very noticeable day. It wasn't a perfect day, but it was big improvement from what he's been doing so far in the offseason. So he's getting better by the day, which is scary and dangerous for other teams, which is why I feel like we have a great chance to have a top 5 offensive line in the NFL this upcoming season. And then moving on to the defensive side of the ball, of course, starting with the defensive line, like some of these clips that you're seeing. And before we even get into the defensive line specifically, Bleeding Burgundy and Gold pointed out the fact that the first team defense in the practice was Amos, Trenavian Amos, Mike Sanverstill, and Jonathan Jones as your starting corners. And I want to go ahead and stop there and point out the fact that, again, Marshawn Lattimore had a day off. He had a vet rest day. And Jonathan Jones obviously would be the immediate starting corner to replace him. But I'm assuming, I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know if Mike Sanverstill moved back to outside and Jonathan Jones played in the inside, or if they just kept Jonathan Jones on the outside. Because even though I feel like he's better in the slot, just like I feel like Mike Sanverstill's better in the slot, Jonathan Jones, just like Dietrich Wise, was just starting for the Patriots last year. And Jonathan Jones was more of an outside corner there. So I'm assuming it was Amos and Jonathan Jones on the outside, Mike Sanverstill on the inside. Then, of course, Quan Martin and Will Harris were your starting safeties. And then your starting defensive line. Of course, your starting linebackers, Luvon Wagner, but your starting defensive line was really interesting. It seems like Dorrance Armstrong is just one starting edge rusher. Dietrich Wise is the other one, as long as Von Miller's taking a rest day. And then you have Daron Payne and Javon Kinlaw as your starting defensive tackles, which is probably assumed. I love Johnny Newton's talent and potential, but he's not a starting defensive tackle over either Payne or Kinlaw yet. And I just wanted to point that out. And then also, shouts out to Bleeding Burgundy and Gold. He also said, I hype the corners, so I don't want to go crazy about the D-line today, but they have the potential to do a complete 180 from last season as well. Not only just the cornerback group. They're huge. Kinlaw's size gets all of the hype, rightfully so, but Dietrich Wise is built like a Mack truck. This defensive line was dominant today from a lot of the reporters that were there. Bleeding Burgundy and Gold even uploaded a clip. He said, sorry for the blurry camera, but this was pretty much every run play for the offense. You could tell that the defense was excited to get the pads popping today. And yeah, man, I mean, with the defense finally getting some pads on, they're like, yes, we can finally play how we want to play. We can finally hit the way we want to hit. So I know they couldn't wait. I know they were excited to finally be able to play a little bit more physical than they had been. So now the defense is really getting the chance to show what they can truly do. Now that we're starting to add more contact to the practices. And Linnell Willingham even revealed from the training camp practice that the entire defensive line was looking impressive. He even singled out Andre Jones Jr. and Eddie Goldman for effectively collapsing the pocket on pass plays, which is huge because Andre Jones, after we signed Von Miller, I was looking like, okay, maybe he doesn't make the team. And then Eddie Goldman is huge because I think he's going to be a dominant run stuffer, a double team eater. He's going to be the reason why Javon Kinlaw, Deron Payne, and Johnny Newton have great seasons, because he's going to be the double team eater, which is going to allow everybody else on the defensive line to see more one-on-ones. You don't want Deron Payne getting double teamed. You don't want Kinlaw getting double teamed. You don't want Johnny Newton getting double teamed. Those are not the areas of expertise, but one-on-one, they can beat any offensive lineman in front of them. Eddie Goldman is going to be the reason they're in more situations like that to succeed. So to hear that, not only, I already assumed he's going to be a really good run defender, the fact that he's even contributing on passing plays, very noteworthy. Sounds like Eddie Goldman may play more than people expect. And then Linnell Willingham also even emphasized Andre Jones and Goldman did a great job pushing the pocket. The D-line was really catching his eye all day. And then Bleeding Burgundy and Gold even finished the practice by saying that'll do it for practice in Ashburn. Again, like we said earlier, the defensive line dominated the day, but I thought Jayden looked sharp, especially throwing to the middle of the field with pressure in his face. But this defensive line was the reason that Jayden Daniels had pressure in his face constantly throughout the day and still had the best day that he had all training camp, despite the defense dominating. And again, like I said, the defense is probably like, yes, man, now that we got the pads on, we can do what we want to do. We can play how we want to play. And I don't think it's a coincidence that now that we're finally starting to ramp up the contact and the physicality of practices, that the defense is starting to look a little bit better. But speaking of Johnny Newton, Linnell pointed out the fact that Newton did a great job blowing up a screen at one point. So he's still developing. He's getting better. He's making plays. And then you have this clip right here of Javon Kinlaw uploaded by Mitchell Tisler, working on splitting some double teams. So like I said earlier, it's not necessarily his area of expertise. You don't necessarily want him in these situations very often, but I love the fact that Dan Quinn, Joe Wood Jr., and Daryl Tapp, our defensive lines coach, are specifically working on this for our defensive linemen. They want them to specifically get better at getting through double teams, to get to the backfield, to get to the ball carrier, or most usually the quarterback in these situations. I love that. This is probably the biggest weakness of a lot of the interior defensive linemen that we have. Again, Johnny Newton, Javon Kinlaw, Deron Payne. Dealing with double teams is probably the thing that they're the worst at right now. I don't think they're necessarily terrible at it, but it's one of their biggest weaknesses as part of their skill sets right now, and they're literally trying to refine that exactly. I love that. No weaknesses going into this regular season and postseason on the Super Bowl run. And then moving on to the linebackers. Shouts out to Zach Selby. He pointed out the fact that when another team drill started, Bobby Wagner opened things up by stuffing Brian Robinson at the line of scrimmage. So basically, Bobby Wagner doing Bobby Wagner things. And then Mitch Tisler also uploaded a clip of him interviewing Jordan McGee, and he said that Jordan McGee had a tough break getting hurt out of training camp last season, but this year he has a big opportunity on the field and in the classroom. And shouts out to Mark Tyler. He said he's really excited for McGee in year 2, and there's a great reason for all of this excitement. He is a freak athlete. He was the most athletic linebacker in the entire draft class of last year's draft, the 2024 draft. And then even with that, going into training camp, Frankie Louvu was hyping him up like, man, this guy is beyond his years. He doesn't look like a rookie out there. But then he got hurt in training camp, and he just kept getting hurt throughout the season. But he showed flashes. Joe Wood Jr. even admitted that this 5th round rookie that we just drafted, we had entire plays and packages built around him. That's how impressive he was early on in the offseason last year for the Commanders, but he kept getting hurt. So all of those plays that they wanted to run, they weren't able to run, and it really threw our defense in confusion. You could just tell that they just really didn't have another guy that could do Jordan McGee things. Bobby Wagner, elite run stuffer. He's the quarterback of the defense. And Frankie Louvu, you can see that he can get after the quarterback. He can stop the run. He can cover a little bit. Jordan McGee is our key to covering very well while also being able to stop the run at the same time. I've talked about this in several videos and live streams, even since back when we first drafted him, that he's the key to allowing our defense to be able to handle everything. Because without Jordan McGee last year, you either had to have an extra linebacker on the field so you can help against the run, but now you're susceptible against the pass. And then when you had that additional DB on the field, now you were susceptible against the run. Remember that Saints game? I forgot who it was, like Mykal Walker or something, but one of those linebackers that weren't Bobby Wagner or Frankie Louvu ended up on Alvin Kamara, and then he ended up having this big gain in the passing game. I don't think Jordan McGee allows that. And so he's that secret piece to the defense. Going back to the Ben Sinnott point that I said, one of the X factors. If he's great, it changes everything about the trajectory of this team. Jordan McGee is definitely one of those guys that if he's as great as I think he can be, our defense goes a whole nother level. Because again, you can't run against us nor pass against us when you just have this one singular player on the field. Otherwise, you have to have a guy that's weak to either one of those two things on the field in this place. And man, please stay healthy and ball out for us, Jordan McGee, this year. And now moving on to the corners. And you're seeing clips right here of the Commanders defensive backs going through some drills. Again, day 5 of training camp. Shouts out to Bowie TV Sports for these clips. They're just going through regular bag drills and things like that. And then it's also this clip right here of Mike Sanverstill and Quan Martin working on some things. And man, I'm telling you, Quan Martin with 2 fully healthy shoulders is going to be insane this year, especially if the defensive line is going to be as great as we're hyping it up to be right now. And the quarterbacks aren't even going to have as much time to try to diagnose our secondary and try to find an open receiver. Quan Martin's going to get a lot of interceptions. That Lions game was just the start of it, man. I'm warning you right now, Quan Martin's going to be crazy. And again, we already know Mike Sanverstill. He's one of the better young corners in the entire NFL last year as a rookie, and he was playing out of position at outside corner. Now that he's moving back into the slot, I've already said it. This cornerback group is going to be the best in the division, and I think they're going to compete to be one of the best 5 cornerback groups in the entire NFL. So I'm super excited. And you know the reason why? Like I've already said, I think the starters are going to be ridiculous. I think we're going to have the best starting cornerback group between Lattimore, Tre'Davious Amos, and Mike Sanverstill in the entire division easily. But then also the depth is ridiculous. You have this clip right here of Noah Benogany. Apparently he had a ridiculous day today, like a really good day. DC Sports News 365 tweeted, Noah Benogany and Mike Sanverstill stood out to me today at practice. Noah had a couple of nice swats on deep balls and just seemed to be flying around everywhere, like you can see on that clip. And then Red Zone in the Lab even tweeted at one point, Noah Benogany is balling. And then immediately after that tweet, like not even a whole minute later, then he tweeted Noah Benogany again. So Noah Benogany just had this run during practice where he was just shutting down everything that was flying. And then Grant Paulson even said goal line work for the first team working against the starters. He said, 1, Sanverstill, nice job diagnosing and a quick reaction run from Debo out of bounds ahead of the short goal line. And then number 2, Daniels with a small window incomplete. Good coverage by Sanverstill again. And then Dom to a back corner of the end zone. Great catch and toe tap by Debo where Debo scored a touchdown. He also pointed out the fact that that was 3 straight goal line targets for Debo Samuel. So again, he's going to be heavily involved in this offense this year. You better get him on y'all fantasy teams. But also, the reason I'm bringing it up now is that Sanverstill on the first of the 3 plays when Debo Samuel was targeted, first of all, he was the one covering Debo Samuel for at least the first 2 plays, maybe all 3 of them. He was able to diagnose and had a quick reaction to the Debo Samuel situation. And then the second play, he made sure that he had such great coverage on Debo Samuel that Jayden Daniels wasn't able to complete the target that he threw to him. So Mike Sanverstill, watch out as well. It's not just Noah Benogany. Again, this cornerback room is insane because Jonathan Jones was a starting corner for the Patriots last year. Now he's our backup that only starts because Lattimore is taking a vet rest day off. And then David Harrison also pointed out that Dan Quinn said that he's really enjoying Tre'Davious Amos's play at the line of scrimmage specifically, and the confidence he's showing in the process and in doing what the coaches are asking him to do on the field. Watch out, Tre'Davious Amos. I really want to emphasize again, like I've already said before, he is the only rookie that's already starting outside of Jalen Lane already potentially being your starting punt returner already today. Outside of that, he's the only rookie that's already starting on the offensive or defensive side of the ball, and he was the one drafted in the second round. Josh Connolly was drafted in the first round. Now, granted, it's kind of like the Dan Quinn competition thing where even Jayden Daniels had to earn his starting spot over Marcus Mariota last year, even though you already knew he was going to be the starting quarterback. Josh Connolly's kind of going through the same thing. But what does that say about Tre'Davious Amos to where he's already starting over Jonathan Jones and Noah Benogany, even though he's a rookie just like everybody else? So watch out, Tre'Davious is something serious. And then moving on to the safeties, you see them getting warmed up by this clip uploaded by Zach Selby. Shouts out to the safety group, man. I mean, it's a little concerning as far as depth-wise what we're doing. Like, you have Percy Butler, you have Tyler Owens and Jeremy Reeves, all great special teamers, but not necessarily guys that you can trust to step in on Sundays and play if Quan Martin and Will Harris need a rest or if either one of them gets hurt. And even Will Harris, I love his potential. He's been having a great training camp so far, but he's still a little bit of a question mark as far as is he ready to be a great starting safety for us. But even going back to the Ja'Cory Cross-Kimura highlight from earlier, like we've already discussed, a lot of people are saying that Tyler Owens technically won this rep. Mike Toller even said, I love JCM. However, if this was live action, that's not just a thud. Owens may have very well lit up JCM. That boy Tyler Owens is ready, man. He's been out there with the starters quite a bit. Now, granted, this play, he was out there against the backups making a great play because you see that's Marcus Mariota heading the ball off. But that man Tyler Owens has been stepping up big time. Even times he's been out there with the starters, he's looked really good, having really good coverage on Deebo Samuel and things like that. And then also, Quan Martin apparently had a really good play where a moment ago, Chris Russell said KJ Osborne with a non-catch from Hartman on a well-thrown sideline pass. So shouts out to Sam Hartman for being accurate. Shouts out to KJ Osborne for going up for the pass. But then somehow Quan Martin find a way to come away with an interception. So he's continuing to make plays. He's only getting better. And I'm super excited about what the future holds for him. Now, special teams-wise, we're not done. Apparently, according to Red Zone in the Lab, Brian Robinson was returning kicks in practice. Whoa! Zach Selby even backed it up. He said both Deebo Samuel and Austin Eckler were also returning kicks in practice, and that could be a nasty combo on kickoff returns. So you had Brian Robinson, Deebo Samuel, and Austin Eckler returning kicks. Now, Deebo Samuel, I feel like is going to be too important to the offense to throw him back there on special teams, and I'm nervous about throwing Austin Eckler out there because both of the times he got hurt big time last year, both happened on special teams. But maybe there's something to that, because outside of that one Eagles game last year, Brian Robinson doesn't really fumble. And also, if JCM eventually takes over as our lead back, like I'm hoping he does sooner rather than later, you're not as worried about Brian Robinson taking extra hits on special teams. So you're like, go ahead, go crazy. And again, he doesn't fumble. And the way that the new kickoff rules are set up the past couple of years, it is more advantageous to have running backs back there rather than wide receivers like it used to be for the rest of NFL history. And then also, shouts out to Red Zone in the Lab for pointing out the fact that Larry Izzo has Tressway working on fake field goal passes right now. So we may get in situations where we're looking like we're going to kick a field goal, and then we're going out and doing a trick play. Now, granted, he said that the pass ended up being a little short and tipped, but at least we're working on it, and that's what you have the offseason to work on to work on and refine things like that. I like the fact that that's in our bag, though. Dan Quinn may get a little aggressive here. Tressway, fake field goal passes for touchdowns or first downs. Let's do it, man. And then also, before we go, we have some other people's reviews and updates, like Dula, who goes there. Shouts out to Dula_Vision. He goes there and shoots some of the best pictures you'll ever see of the Commanders, especially for practices and things like that. He said his observations from the July 28th practice. He said, I thought the D-line won the trenches today. The D-line and the backers seem to be in the backfield a lot, so that's a common theme amongst a lot of people that were at the practice. The D-line looks great. Despite pressure, I thought Jayden Daniels was very sharp and used the middle of the field very well in his throws. That's another thing that seems to be a recurring theme. Dula and Bleeding Burgundy and Gold are seeing eye to eye on that exact thing, so you know it's real. And then the DBs have improved greatly from the last 2 years. This is easily going to be probably our best defensive back room we've had in a long time. I love to hear all of that. And then Red Zone in the Lab pointed out the fact that more and more of these players are wearing these protective helmets in practice, so this seems to be a really growing thing. So be prepared to see people always constantly wearing those weird new helmets that people are wearing lately. And then also, before we go, a couple of random updates. You have this clip of Jeremy Reeves hanging out with Tressway's kids. I think that's beautiful, man. That bond, and like how Tressway was the one that told Jeremy Reeves he made the All-Pro and everything like that. That was beautiful. Shouts out to Mark Tyler. He said this team has such a great overall bond with one another. A true team on and off the field, and that's why we're so great, and that's why we're Super Bowl contenders, man. You absolutely love to see it. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you about everything discussed in the video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Really appreciate y'all. If you made it this far in the video, really appreciate you, because this is nearly an hour long. I'm hours late. So for you to make it this far in the video, man, salute to you. Really appreciate you, because by the time a lot of y'all are watching this, we're probably already moving on to the next practice that's actually going on while you're watching this. But of course, I will have you updated on that practice later on in the day as well after it finishes. But make sure y'all stay tuned. Really appreciate y'all. Of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video, about the defensive line dominating, Luke McCaffrey getting better, the secondary getting better, JCM apparently being one of the biggest standouts of the entire training camp so far, regardless of age or draft status, any of that type of stuff. Let me know how you feel about Deebo Samuel already gaining a strong connection with Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels having arguably his best day, even though the defensive line dominated. How do you feel about the pads finally being on and how we're ramping up physicality? And it's only going to get more physical from here to the point that we're starting to do full-blown, full contact and taking people to the ground, tackles, hit sticks, all of that. Of course, you want to protect one another because y'all on the same team, but the intensity is definitely going to pick up a little bit very soon. We're slowly ramping up. So let me know how you feel about everything in this video. Leave a like on the way out. Again, I'm gonna have y'all covered for every single practice. Even if I am late, I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.